Whew. All right, welcome to this very impromptu uh, session of Otherworldly Stories. We are joined today. I'm Steel the Warrior. Run tabletop gaming for FurSquared and the game last year. We have to my right, which would be this way, we have Gazzy, a lovely friend who ran Consuite, does plenty of awesome LARPing. I can't wait to hear his stories. And of course, I guess we'll call him infamous, Dusty. All sorts of foxy fun coming from previous Nero LARP times. I spent quite a few wonderful weekends causing all sorts of Nero, Wisconsin shenanigans with him. So, yes, we're going to, I guess I'll open up with a story first. We've got quite a bit to share today. We'll see how much we get to. I tend to over-prepare. So we'll start off with, I love Nero. I've been playing for about 15 years now. It's one of the more, I guess we'll say, lower contact games. It's mostly buffer contact. But certain friends we tend to physically roleplay a bit more than we likely should because we're okay with that sort of thing. But I love Nero. I love playing so much. And although when I first started, when I was just an early teenager, I got into a bit of trouble and I caused a bit of mischief, and people like to remind me of that quite frequently. I had a lot of fun, but 15 years ago was a different time when it came to furries, so people like to poke fun at furries quite a bit. And so that was an interesting dual mix to deal with at the time. But anyway, aside from being that weird furry guy at Nero, they would also tend to poke fun at me for not like super mega min-maxing my healing build. I played a healer back then, a scholar, which is the mostly magical focused spell casting class. And I, right at character creation, I picked up the ability to utilize a sword, which is very expensive for a scholar build. And I got a lot of flack for that originally, because they're all like, well, now you can't do as many healing spells. And I'm like, I like being able to, defend myself from something that gets too close. I know, it's a strange concept. But much later in my character's life, I also spent a lot of time to learn how to use a shield, and I got no end of crap from people. But anyway, that being said, I never for a moment had any second thoughts about my character build's decisions, and I might have a couple less spells than other people. I like not dying. So, one thing I do, I gotta say, that may be a little more construed towards being a quote-unquote bad healer is that sometimes I panic. Like when there's
Who doesn't panic? Let's call for what it is.
Right, yeah. It's like sometimes something bad happens and like some big mega monster shows up and we know that it's undead or something, and I just kind of I get terrified. And Nero's one of these really sweet systems where healing magics does damage to undead, or sometimes double damage to undead. And so sometimes when we're in battle and I see that my guild mates are getting beat down by some big undead monster and they're falling down faster than I can pick them up, normally I can chuck a couple of spells and kill whatever's going on. But sometimes, like this one particular instance, there's this giant tree run by this Nero buddy of ours known as Puddles. That's a nickname he earned after a kobold character he made. You could put two and two together and figure out where the nickname came from. But anyway, we're fighting this giant tree undeady thing, and we're just having all sorts of fun. We're getting rocked. To just getting slapped around left and right, and it's terrifying because I'm like, oh my gosh, we're all gonna die, and we're gonna die, and I'm panicking because everyone's falling over, and so I just blow everything I have, which is at some point it's just like 70 70 70 40 40 40 30 30 30 20 20 10 10 10 10, and like after the however long it took for me to actually cast all those, the head of the guy who was the head of plot at time, who was playing this giant dark face painted tree, all this craziness, it just like drops his weapons and he stares at me like dumbfounded, like what the heck just happened? This healer, he just assaulted me with spell packets. and he just looks at me and he's like, what the heck? You killed me at like the second 30. Where did all of that come from? And I just kind of looked and gave this sheepish shrug. I'm like, I don't know. I just don't like undead, ? Shrug. So, of course, for the rest of that year, the guy who played that character, who played that undead tree monster, he was the head of plot, so he got to play many, many NPCs over the course of the year. And every single time that he runs into me during that year, he would always come up with some excuse to be like, hey, you look like the kind of guy that really knows how to blow up trees, don't ya? And of course, me playing the nature-loving healer would always go, hey, I only blow up undead trees, okay? Cut me some slack.
Only undead trees.
Only undead trees.
Leave my forest alone. Hello, everyone. I just joined. I didn't get to hear introductions. Steele, would you introduce everyone?
All right, I'll introduce everybody again. First off, we have, everything's changed. Sweet.
That's my favorite. I got you. Come on. I got you.
All right.
Time for a new cup.
So we have me in the top left corner. I'm Steele the Warrior. I run tabletop gaming and the con game for FurSquared. We have two... That way.
Steele, what did you play? What game did you play specifically, and what character did you play?
For Nero?
Sure. That's what we're talking about.
Okay. So for all of my stories today, all of my stories are going to be Nero stories. I played myself, Steele the Warrior. This is actually the mask I used for some of the later years of LARPing I did. I played Steele the Warrior. I am a Earth Scholar, which means I am the more spellcastery, less fighty based healer class. To my left, we have Gazzy.
All right, Gazzy, go. Speak.
Love the circlet, Gazzy.
Oh, thank you. I don't play Nero. I play Belagarth, which is basically LARP, but no magic, just beating each other senselessly. Which is amazing. It's a great stress
It's the
relief.
concussion game. Nothing wrong with the concussion game, man.
No, SCA is a concussion game. This is the Thumpa game.
SCA is just plain death. SCA, we used real arrows?
What does SCA stand for?
The Society of Creative Anachronism.
Wait, Society of Creative Anachronism. So, like, what's the most out-of-place anachronistic thing that goes on in there?
They wear carpets as armor because they need carpets as armor. They just hit each other with sticks wrapped in duct tape, dude.
Actually, duct tape's a luxury. A lot of it's just wooden rattan weaponry.
Oh, they made me cover it up because I was using those spindle holders from the library at St. Lawrence, and they started splintering. So it just became death, and they were like, step too far, maybe?
All right, then. I'm Dusty Red. I've been playing a variety of LARPs from the gateway drug known as Vampire the Masquerade, where you 1, 2, 3, and all sorts of stuff. Going on to stuff like to Nero International, which was my big for a number of years. I did fall into the Alliance, which is kind of a splinter from Nero, but that's a whole different story. And then the newfound passion that should be opened up once we get non-political and start talking of people could be together again, Convergence LARP, which is currently based out of South Michigan. And I play a Foxen Rogue, which, I mean, come on. Who didn't love Robin Hood?
Fair point.
Here.
Robin.
My name's Alkali. I used to play Nero. I've done a ton of LARPing in my time, but more importantly, the gentleman over here is the one who introduced me to Nero. So thank you to Dustin for showing me. No, wait, it's the other way around.
No, it's the other way around.
What did you introduce me to? Furry.
You got me into LARPing.
I just woke up and I haven't had my coffee.
Okay, there we go.
Rather than that, I've been playing Nero for, actually probably close to 20 years at this point, and I've done a very large handful of other LARPs, all a good time. Great to get away for a weekend and be somebody who you truly are if you were in magical medieval times.
You play a chaotic evil necromancer.
Case in point.
Neutral evil.
I go neutral. Well, thank you, Dustin. Thank you.
True. You do like an orderly kitchen.
Very much so.
I don't know. I think I'd probably play some closer to chaotic silly.
That was more Keldrock. Keldrock was chaotic city.
That was definitely. I have a story about him.
No.
Give a quick example of Keldrock's speaking style so people have context for this story.
Oh, God.
The Keldrock speaking style is very simple. It is a combination of Strong Bad and Jimmy Durante, and I would do that for as long as I could, but then I would get tired. And the voice would go into something like this, and then I would talk really fast, and no one would pay attention to me because they're smart.
You realize your point of references really dates you.
Like
Strong Man is kind of touching some of your that, but Jimmy Durante, like, come on, boyo.
You leave my examples alone.
So so Gazzy, you said you did a lot of Balgarth, like what? Or I'm trying to get Balgarth. Yeah, what's something crazy that you might have witnessed or might have seen that kind of threw you into like, holy crap, this is happening?
Oh shit. Okay. So it was about 2 years ago. It was during a particularly hot event, and I'm sort of sitting on the sidelines. I'm just kind of sitting there. I'm talking with some friends, and then all of a sudden, I see on the field just darting across this guy in a bulldog mascot costume. It's not a fursuit. It's clearly a college mascot costume. And I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, aye. And the guy who I'm talking with, he just kind of stops. He looks at the mascot, and he looks at me, and he's like, what the fuck did you do? Like, this was my doing. And I'm like, I don't know. Is it the heat? Am I going crazy? It's like, no, you got to go out there. You got to fight this thing now. I'm like, wait, what do you mean fight? He's like, go out there, get your weapon, and beat him up. So I grab my weapon, and he's running around. He's like, and I smacked him about 10 times in the kidneys.
Why
Interesting choice of
particularly the kidneys?
Because that's the best place to get a hit. You know, with these weapons, it's a very, very meaty. And so it was very satisfying hearing that impacting. And I think it sent the message across that you shouldn't be on the fighting field in a giant mascot costume.
I'm sure it did. What about Dustin and Steele? You guys have to have like pseudo origin stories. What's one of your first encounters of LARPing? Because first encounters are always the best. Before you have the power, before you kind of know the game, you're getting to know the people. Those are those weird stories that really make the events. Who's got a good one?
All right. Well, I think one of my first Nero events I ever participated at, Nero Chicago, was likely one of my most memorable because after hearing so many stories from you, Alkali, and a bunch of other people, how insanely difficult and terrifying Nero Chicago was, I was ready to just hold on to your armor and never let you go for the remainder of the first night. And we go off on our first module, our first mission, and we go out and we do some stuff, and we come back, and on the way back from the module, from the camp that we're at, is really like a half a mile at most, but in LARP and gaming terms, that could be a year's worth of journey when it comes to certain timings. Because if at one point you get jumped by something huge that just like beats the crap out of you, and you're all like, oh no, run, go, and I'm like, oh my god, we're all gonna die, this is the worst thing ever, like an hour into game, and my guild leader is bleeding out on the ground, and so I run back into town, which is only a couple 100 feet away at this point, but I'm running, and I'm like, oh my gosh, something got Keldrock. I don't know what it is. I couldn't see what it is. I don't know what's going on. And everyone in town's all like, oh no, where is he? And me, like, this super huge on no meta and like immersive role playing and staying in character, I was so panicked and so terrified of what was going on and what had just happened that I was just all like, oh, he's back somewhere over there at NPC camp. And everyone around me was just all like, what the heck is NPC camp? And I'm like, I ruined it already. And like not even an hour in, and I screwed it. And one guy, this genius guy, I don't remember who it was.
I promise you.
One guy stepped in at the last second, and like a total bro, he's all like, "Oh, he means the non-participatory encampment for all the people who don't deal with adventures." And I'm all like, "Yeah, what he said."
That is an excellent acronym. I love it.
You got to get good at them. You got to get good at them.
I fell into the trap of what we refer to as the FERP, but it's very close. If everybody knows what the FNG is in any job that you might have worked, the FN new guy. So there seems to be a thing where everybody's first time LARPing they have a tendency of playing like an elf or a human or something very simple because you're trying to learn your game. I know you got more of the Gazzy's got more of the less fantasy going on, so it's human hitting human. Stop the crime on humans.
There's plenty of fantasy, I assure you.
Oh, there's okay, good. So I decided to play an elf for my first run through, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. I didn't have a rule book, and again, this is what 2000, like literally the year 2000, and we didn't quite know what we didn't have the internet like we do now, so we didn't have the rule books easily accessible. Now it's just a PDF everywhere you go. So I decided to play my first game as an elf. Saw a group of what would be considered cat people. My God, they're called Sar, but they're a race of cat folk. And I was like, they make animal peoples? I want to play an animal people. So I made a fox. But as Steele mentioned earlier, there was still a weird feeling towards furries and a weird like vibe towards anybody that played like animal type characters, funny animal characters, so to speak. And so I was like, you know what, F it, I'm going to play a fox. I've always liked foxes. This is what I'm doing. Got my makeup, got everything else. And so I'm rolling into the camp, first time playing a fox, new character, new rogue, who dis, and trying to figure out how I'm going to feel comfortable kind of being this character and going outside of my comfort zone to play this new game, with these new people, these new friends, as a character that, again, at the time, furries were very poo-pooed upon. Not the edgy kind of, haha, we're going to be trash talkers, but back then, outcasts. One of the things that cemented it for me was at Nero Chicago as well, oddly enough, back at what we refer to lovingly as Lake Danbeard, which was one of those campsites that just got very dewy in the mornings. So it could be 100 degrees outside in the middle of July, but at 4 a.m., that big wide field was like it's deep of water. It was just soaked. And I'm standing outside the parking lot, kind of getting ambushed. One of the head of plot people, one of the main storytellers, sees me alone, and he's playing an orc, like an aggressive bad guy orc, not the, I'm funny and I'm your friend, I'm going to make poopy talk like strong bad jokes. And the plot guy knew I was new, so he's doing his thing as a plot person, as somebody who's trying to foster a community of new players to kind of play with me and go, hey guy, you better run. I'm gonna kill you if you don't run. And I see where I am standing on the precipice between a wet, slick, grassy field and the gravel for a road. So I'm just standing there, and the orc looks at me, and he's like, all right, guy, I'm going to get you. And he starts running towards me, and I just stay there. Very Warner Brothers Bugs Bunny character moment where I just stand there, filing my nails, kind of waiting for him to cross like the 50-yard run to get to me. So as he's picking up speed, at this point, he was a larger guy, so he had enough momentum that he was going forward in no other direction. And as he got about close to me, I took a step left and then bolted right onto the gravel path, which he continued to follow my step right, slid into the grass, and went skidding, no joke, 15, 20 feet, face first into the grass, and just disappeared from view as I skipped off down the path. The thing that still strikes me to this day, though, is he looked up, and it was definitely an in-game, out-of-game moment that he looked at me and was like, I know why you're a fox now. And that was one of my first intros to LARPing, of being able to use cleverness and the environment around me for a potential combat situation, rather than just standing there and getting into a stick fight and going. So that is one of the key in Alkali. You will probably remember the name Joe West. So that was one of my first.
Joe!
That was one of the things that hit me hard and said, this is why I play this character, because I'm able to rely on cunningness and those traits that we associate foxes with. Not all those traits we associate foxes with, and still be able to play this game and be in this environment. So that was my big standout.
See, that's wonderful. We're actually going to go to his starting story in a second, because I was there for his, and I'm going to comment on it, you
I can't wait to
jackass.
do this.
But before we do that, two quick shout-outs. Number one, to our people in the background hosting this, to Skylar and his entire team. Thank you for throwing up all of those prompts at the bottom. The layout is amazing. I am insanely impressed with what you guys have accomplished here. And if you could, using all of your magic power, would you put up that link again, reminding everyone that today we are doing this to support our good friend and member of the Dealer's Den for years at FurSquared, Rob Hogan. Rob is a person who has created multiple, not only memes, but traditions at the FurSquared convention. The convention would not be the same without him. He is the one who painted the original meme painting that comes back every year to our charity auction. He has raised thousands of dollars for charity. And ladies and gentlemen, both and neither, he needs our help. If you can, give. And if you can't, don't worry about it. Not only are we furries, we are FurSquared. We've got this. So,
Here.
without further ado, Dragor, I took you to Nero once, and he broke the tradition, Dustin. He did not play a non-makeup race his first time. He went in with full spray-painted, professionally done snake makeup.
Yeah. I was
Dragor's a
snake.
masochist, though, so we know this.
Very
Well, okay. I demanded it up front because I'm like, look, you don't have to bald cap me. I'll fresh shave. Let's do this.
Yep.
And then while I'm sitting there realizing how long it actually takes to do it, I'm like, this will be worth it. This will be worth it. And then I saw the end result, and it totally was worth it.
very worth it.
So we were playing a trio of snake people. This was my first time ever. And I decided my character was going to essentially be a snake version of the dude, except I was a caster. So I baked in that he was basically a drug burnout and one time woke up with a case of the magic.
Basically.
And I am playing it as that, and I did that on purpose. So because me as the player got terms wrong all the time, I got to excuse it in character and go, sorry, this is all new to me. I woke up with the finger wiggles only 3 months ago.
It was very new to you.
It was very new to me.
Very new. Want to explain how new?
So I am with Alkali and Nick Denny, the
Darius.
Do not
Darius.
get a high five from Nick Denny,
It hurts so much.
but it makes a good sound.
It does.
It's worth the sound. So we're on the big mod of the night. It's the entire town mod. Despite it being cold, we are lucky that it is clear sky and a full moon. It is 1 a.m. and pure twilight you can see. It is one of the most magical things I have ever seen. And so we're out there, and roundabout the effect that happens is one of the GMs or enemies calls out this activation phrase, and I didn't know what any of this was, but I see Alkali and Nick Denny look at each other, and you couldn't hear it first. So you're going back and forth. Did he just say? And then he says it again. They both fall silent. I see Nick grab a hand on his sword. Alkali starts laughing and then says, "Oh, fudge."
Oh, fudge.
And then they immediately start sparring. It was like a sleeper agent activation phrase.
What had happened was the NPC got off a perfectly aimed berserk directly at me, and I dodged, and Nick couldn't see it, so it hit Nick. Now, bear in mind,
You're
at the
a
time,
bad fighter.
Nick was,
Priceless.
Nick was one of the best sparring partners in Nero. At the time, he was incredible. Definitely way over my skill level. He is going to kill me. But I had a friend, and I knew the spell, so I started yelling at my snake friend, "Awaken! Tell him to awaken! Cast awaken! Please awaken!" And you yelled, "What?"
Awaken!
And just said the word and did nothing.
No, I said awaken and I threw the thing. I did throw the
I
thing.
didn't even see.
Nick starts laughing because you have to get the invocation right. You have to say, "I command you to awaken" as you throw it.
Yep.
So I get that wrong, and then Alkali is stumbling and falling while Nick is beating the crap, going, "The invocation is I command you to awaken! The invocation is I command you to awaken!"
It was one of my all-time favorite openings.
So there's that. As Nick's coming for me, you basically, because you both are high-powered, you evaporated everything from him.
Yes.
So right before he's going to hit me with the sword, the last bit of advice pops into my head, and I go, "I command you to sleep," and I hit him, and he drops. So now we got separated from the rest of the group, so I'm looking there, and then Alkali whispers, "Go catch someone." So I run and I go meet up with the group, and I immediately am back into in-character mode, trying to stoned snake explain what's going on. So like, whoa. Where's your, I forget your character's name.
Slivik.
Slivik? Where's Slivik? I forget Nick's character's name. Like, they skirmished over there. I'm like, "Could you speak faster, please?" I'm like, "No."
I loved that you didn't know what information to pass along to them, because you did tell them we skirmished. They didn't quite get it. They kind of got like, "Oh, we can't listen to him." So they ran over, found Nick asleep and me dead. So what do? You split off your healers. One of them went to me, and as they were incanting the healing spell, the person got to Nick first. "I command you to awaken." I pop up at the same time. "He's berserked!" He killed 4 people because you can't awaken a berserked person. Oh my god, it was good times. I love your first event.
I look forward to trying out. That was my one and only time of doing a LARP, and I would like to try again.
It's fun.
Yeah.
Since
should
LARP
go.
are so fun, the group. Let's talk about a time you succeeded. However, I'm going to put a caveat on it. You are not allowed to tell us about the time you succeeded because of your high-powered abilities or high-powered characters. What is the time at LARP where you realized that you were more athletic, that you realized that this is something you can do? You really physically felt that you as a person succeeded. I think Yazzy's got one. Are you
I got a
raising
good
your
one.
hand? Do it.
Do it.
Oh, I got a good one. That's good. Okay, so it's I think it's either last year at the last fall seasonal event, and basically everyone is ushered into this very large pavilion banquet tent that we use for feast hall, and there's an indoor fighting tournament going on, and I'm standing in line. I'm waiting with about 50 or other people just kind of standing there waiting to get into this very small ring where, there's one-on-one sparring going on. And I'm very hungry at this moment. I'm like, if I don't eat something, I'm not going to be able to do well. And there's this tray on a picnic table to my left that has leftover salad from the evening before's feast. And I'm looking around, I'm like, am I going to have to eat cold salad with my hands to satisfy my hunger? And so I'm looking, and I remember I have a mug strapped to my side. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to workplace this. So I grab my mug, scoop up the salad from the tray, squirt the dressing into the cup, and then I'm shaking this thing, and now all of a sudden people are thinking I'm drinking when in actuality I'm just garfing down this mug full of salad. No sooner do I get halfway with my salad than I get shoved into this fighting pit. They're like, go, Bower, go, kill him. And I'm like, wait, whoa, I have this sword in this hand, and then I have my mug salad in the other hand. I don't have time to explain to anybody that there's an effing salad in my mug. So
does ranch
I'm
go
out
down
circling around
the same way it comes
guy.
back up?
I'm like, oh, and I just stab him right in the heart. And he just goes down, and then I'm just kind of standing there. I'm like, what do I do now? He's like, oh, well, it's the bear pit. You have to fight until you die. So now I'm facing down about 5 other guys in a very rainy, very muddy straw pit with a half-eaten salad in one hand and a sword. And it takes about 3 guys to take me out. At which point I get out of the ring, and the ref kind of looks into my mug, and he's like, were you eating this entire time? And I'm like, I gotta stay strong somehow.
I gotta tell you,
and that's how I
I'd
learned
be
that
more
I'm
worried
some
about
sort
is
of
your
like,
opponent now thinks they were killed by a vegetarian. Just so you know, you really humiliated them.
I pop-eyed all of them.
So, Steel, what do you
Dusty
got?
and
I'm curious.
Steel.
No, Steel,
Who's
got your
very
amazing
curious.
moment?
All right, so this is actually one of the Nero stories I tell most when I talk to other people. This is one of my proudest moments. Is again back in Nero Chicago, way back in the day when I was still a lobby, and I was running with Alkali as Keldrock, and it was one of those weekends where it was very clear that the plot team had absolutely no idea what they were going to run until dinner the day before, because the campsite is quite a bit of ways out of the way. So everybody at the plot team probably met up to get dinner at a place called Long John Silver's. And they had no idea what they were doing, and until they were all just kind of like looking around, helplessly trying to decide what to do, and then all at the same time, their eyes met at those little foldable paper hats that you can do, like at Burger King. That was the pirate hat that said Long John Silver's at the top, and they all looked at each other, and their eyes twinkled, and they went, "We know what we're doing this weekend." And that was the weekend that we got to fight against the ghost pirate squad of Long John Silver himself. And boy, oh boy, the weekend itself was really fun. The plot team was amazingly creative with how they got to simulate pirate and ship battles and stuff. But my favorite part, my crowning achievement, was on Saturday night, the Big Town mod. We were in this giant big old barn. Apparently it's like really, really old. It's like a historical monument, historical artifact. And maybe if we have enough time, I might tell a story of a different historical artifact when it comes to Nero. But I digress. We're doing this. There's this hallway that's maybe 12 feet across, and there's like 30 plus people crammed into it, all fighting, several rows of fighters and then archers and then spellcasters behind, and we're fighting them, and we all realize that on the other side of the NPCs, where they're all squaring off against us, there's another room, but the door has like a shower curtain in it, so we can't see what's in the other room. And of course, Alkali, being the absolute nutball that he is, especially as Keldrock, has decided we're going to go in there because there's probably something important. So we're going to push our way in to go murder whatever's going on back there that likely could be the source of all of this undeadness. So he and his second-in-command Javelin push forward, and they're pushing through the crowd of PCs who are like, what are you doing? Are you nuts? What's going on? And they just kind of go forward and they push through, and they're being hit at from all sides as they push in to go in through the door. And then they disappear behind the curtain, and I'm just like, oh boy. Well, I guess I'm going to see them in the circle later. I'm going to have to resurrect them myself. Well, that was good to know. And then for 2 minutes, I don't know what's going on because there's so much fighting going around me. I can't hear anything specific coming from all the way down the hall. And eventually, after I get pulled over to take care of some people that got beat up real hard and got pulled to the back, I look back up again, and all of a sudden I just see that there's this 5-inch gap between the bottom of the curtain and the floor. And all I see is a single boot sticking out from the room. And I'm like, I recognize that boot. I think that's Keldrock's boot. So I'm like, I have 2 healing spells left, and I'm going to need 1 for an emergency case. So this is the last thing I've got for the night. So I see that there's 30 people ahead of me. There's swords swinging everywhere, bows, packets going forward, packets coming back. And I'm just all like, well, I guess I'm going to shout this as loud as possible. And I'm like, Cure Light Wounds 5, and I throw it, and it soars like 30, 40, 50 feet. And I just see it just daintily, boop, right off the back of the boot. And just to make sure they know what's going on, I yell at the top of my lungs, Cure Light Wounds 5! And all I see over the course of the next minute is that boot slowly but surely pulling its way back under the curtain. And then there's some more skirmishing going on, and 2 seconds later, all I see coming out from underneath the curtain is just and I'm like, all right, I guess they got it.
You have no idea how much I was smiling when I heard you scream after feeling that hit to my boot. I'm like, what could that have been? Oh, thank you, Steele. Oh, thank you. Dustin, your amazing moment. As a athletic person, I'm sure you've got some good ones.
I mean, I could tell about the time I nearly puked. I could tell about the time I slept in a tree. I could talk about the time I climbed through windows to murder somebody. Probably one of my favorite moments, though, is the thing about LARP. And I need to preface this because people kind of lose their idea of it's a bunch of nerds in the woods. You've seen the movie Role Models, where it's just kind of hidden and no imagination to it. And every game has its own imagination. Everybody wants to tell a story. Everybody wants to do something that makes it worthwhile and really pull you away from the world. And while all of this chaos and everything else that could stipulate a moment of I was able to excel. And by the way, this is absolutely a negative in terms of stealing, talking about yourself, because I don't like talking about myself in this regard. This is a moment where, as you said, that says, where did I use physical ability? This was probably one of the modules, one of the adventures that was just between myself and, oddly enough, Dusty White, where we needed to break into a library. So the concept was definitely, from the get-go, shh, no noise. And the plot person at this, and I want to give him proper credit, this was Nick Wilson from Nero Kalamazoo. So Kalamazoo, Michigan runs a Nero chapter there. And Nick is a longtime storyteller, and he's very good at minutia. More importantly, though, he's good at taking what he has and making it work. That being, we're doing a stealth mission of breaking into a museum, but we're also at a Boy Scout camp in the middle of the woods, so how do you make this happen? So what he ended up doing was sitting down cross-leg style in the middle of this gravel path, blindfolded. And he set the parameters of, I was probably 50 to 100 yards. I'm not 100% sure. It was a good distance. And he put a little like baggie of sand on top of a post past him. And he said, staying on the path, you need to sneak past me to then grab the bag and then sneak back to your starting point. And that will be your physical representation, your phys rep, of you sneaking through the museum or through the library without disturbing any guards or raising an alarm. And there's also a thing that LARPers know, and Alkali and Gazzy and Steel, you'll probably really keen in on this specifically, of commit to the bit. So I need to sneak in. We're in a campsite in Michigan in early March, maybe. And so it's snowy, it's cold, it's nasty. And I start kicking off shoes and socks and everything else. Because if you're going to sneak, you need to go barefoot. Like, there's no point for clumpy winter boots to make noise. So it begins of go sneak past them, kick off my boots and do it. And the plot person did not realize that I was going to commit to this bit to the point of taking off my shoes in the snow to get past them. It wasn't until I've already grabbed the baggie and got past him on the return trip that he, with the stipulation of every time that there was a noise, he would kind of look with a flashlight in the direction of that noise. He wouldn't look around. He would just be like, I heard a noise. It was in this direction. Lift the flashlight. And if he saw something, you were busted. But if he didn't see you, then he'd close his eyes and lower his head back down. So it's very Solid Snake in a way. So it got to the point where by the time I got near the finish line, he had realized it had been 15 minutes since he heard any kind of noise. He better just start panic looking. And it turned into a electric light or an ELO concert with this flashlight just shining into the sky with panic of where is he? Where did he go? And at that point, clear with the baggie of sand. And that was one of the highlights in terms of using creativity to use the environment around you, using player resources in terms of being sneaky and like, hey, if you can walk past me and back without me noticing, cool. So props on to Nino Kalamazoo and Nick Wilson for using that idea of being a sneaky fox. That's what we do.
A good rogue
Awesome.
module is worth its weight in gold.
Oh, yeah.
Always has been. Those are one of the rarest things in Nero, mainly because of the amount of time to set up. Setting up hundreds of mouse traps with tripwires all over a building is a undertaking, but so worth it in the end. So worth it. Which will lead me to one of the coolest things I have ever seen in Nero, and that was the Impossible mod. I miss you too, Dustin. I got to run something called the Impossible mod. Very rarely do you do a mod like this, but we set up what we call a scenario to lose. We took a group of very high-level, very powerful PCs and had them start in town. What they didn't know is that we had them stand there still waiting for the module because one of my guys went behind them to town and asked everyone, hey guys, just so you know, we'll do this for everyone eventually. We want all of you to play bad guys. So the 10 PCs, the 10 good guys, unbeknownst to them, were about to fight 40 live bad guys at the same time, not in a wave, but all with skill and talent, because they had to, all they had to do, get from their current position, go through the, this is the Stonehouse Park, so what the front yard was basically a nice wooded front yard, but there's a lot of obstacles there. Out of the front yard into the field, through the field into the barn. The barn had 2 ways you could go to get to the second floor, go either way, and I was waiting on the second floor, literally doing a deal with another NPC that did not know what we were actually negotiating a item, and then I had to get the item out of town. It was all live. Holds were campsite wide. If we had to stop the game, everyone had to stop, and they had to get the item. These guys went so hardcore evil to get through this encounter, it wasn't even... They're desecrating themselves to get past guards. They're setting off explosions to try to distract people, but nothing was better.
I just sleep like this, dude.
Very carefully
shame on
and with
all
much
of you.
blood on my teeth. What?
Shame.
Well, their leader kind of darted ahead. Their plan ended up being distract as many people as you can and send their best fighter. So he ran all the way through into the barn. He had 4 spells, breaker takedown, breaker takedown. He took down my guards. He gets on top of a barrel in the barn and for the first time looks through barn and realize we set up a rogue mod. There are traps everywhere. Traps so bad that at one point he looked down and realized the barrel that he was sitting on had a mouse trap on it, meaning it was the largest explosive trap you could possibly have in the game, and he was perched on it. And as he was sitting there, he saw me. I finished the deal. The chase scene through a trapped out room that I was aware of the positioning of the traps, but he wasn't, was amazing. He's rolling over things. He's actually doing the movie style sliding under tripwires because we specifically made them visible so that this was possible, but I had the advantage. I knew where they are. So I take off. My fat ass, he's pretty quick, sliding under things, being agile, chases me all the way down to the lake, but I've got the advantage. I've gone farther than him. What am I going to do? I can't outrun him. I've got the item. I take the item. I've got just enough time. I literally get down in the sand, put my hands down, throw back the sand, put the item in, bury it, and go into the water. And I start swimming across the damn lake. I'm like, he's not going to follow me here, and he's not going to find the item. Then I hear a splash behind me. There's a lot of things that happen, but the story ends with 10 PCs went into the lake and battled me, and soaking wet dragged me onto the beach, laid me down, and said, "Where is it?" And I was able to reach into the sand and give it to them. It was amazing. It was immaculate. But in the end, what it came down to was a bunch of people using real skills to fight insurmountable odds. Distraction,
awesome.
Actually going under tripwires, fighting intelligence with intelligence, and it was so cool. I was thrilled to lose that encounter.
Yeah, those are the best.
I love those. Well, with only 10 minutes left, just to give everyone a chance to do one more thing at least, does anyone have what we call the 1-minute story? Does any of you have an encounter, just a little quick quip, something that happened to you that's interesting or funny or amazing, something that you could quickly do so everybody still gets a chance? Dustin does. Go ahead, bud.
I had a quick one. So I played in a variety of LARPs, and obviously when you transfer for one game to another, the game at the time was Alliance South Michigan. Again, I told them a lot, but they're run by an old group by the Order of the Emerald Flame for the most part. That's boom.
Yay.
Alkali knows these pretty well. And of course. And so I guess one of the big things would be a quick blip is, so these characters kind of transfer from game to game, and it went from Nero to Alliance, and they played their primary characters. So as far as he was concerned, he had been living his life on this world, knew some memories, and didn't live his life from there. And then I appeared. Out of game, I had played from one rule set to another rule set. In game, I had traversed the multiverse and went from one world to another and appeared in his world. He looks at me, he walks up to me and is like, "I know you." Grabs me, and we're old friends, so it's kind of a point of, physical role play while it's frowned upon. It was one of those things of, sure, I trust him, he trusts me, here we go. He grabs me and just basically picks me up and brings me outside and goes, "Come walk with me." And we begin to walk towards the lake. I later find out that in his mind, he was role-playing the concept of fate was playing with him and was tricking him, and he was out to murder me because he thought I was one of his old memories. And I'm playing it as, oh, this is one of my old friends, my mentors. I'm looking forward to seeing him again. And so we're walking toward the lake. It isn't until we get to the lake's edge when I realize, both in and out of game, I might be swimming tonight. Now, luckily, it turned out to be the role play between us kind of solidified everything, but it was probably one of the times I was scared, out of game scared, and not the I'm going to get killed scared. But it's kind of cold. The lake looks murky. I don't like leeches touching my feet, I'm out. So that was one of the moments of the quick 60-second, I'm going to die and get wet.
Awesome. Who else has a quick story? Something, there you go. Gazzy, go right ahead.
Okay, so this happened at one of my first events that I went to. Bellagarth, there's not a lot of role-playing involved, but there's very much an emphasis on, the war of honor. If you pick a fight, you're expected to finish it. You have to fight for what's right, what your honor says, blah, blah, blah. I didn't know any of that. And so it was getting close to lunchtime, and I had been participating in some midday libation indulgence. And there's this one guy who I was fighting out on the field. He's like, and I'm like, I'll fight you later at midnight. And he's like, yeah, you wouldn't. And I put that in the back of my head. I go about my day. And it's about 1 a.m. now. I'm walking back to my campsite, and I hear, you. And I'm looking around like, what the hell? And the guy who I had apparently started beef with is standing on this land bridge, and on both sides it's like a wetland reserve. So there's water on this side and water on this side. He's like, come here and fight me. And I'm tired. It's 1 a.m. And I'm like, do I have to? He's like, honor demands it. Fight me, you plebe. So I get my sword. I go into the middle of this land bridge, and we're fighting, and this guy doesn't want to take his hits. We're fighting. And ultimately, I just look at him. I'm like, it's 1:30. I want to go to bed. He's like, honor demands that we finish this duel. So I had with me at the time a very large rectangular tower shield. I look at him. I've officially given all my cares. They are officially out the window. I take my tower shield, I bulldoze this guy, and he flies back, trips on a rock, and rolls into the wetland reserve. And he emerges looking like the creature from the Black Lagoon, and he's standing there going, honor has been met. And he walks away. I never see him again. I never hear from this guy again, and I go to bed satisfied in the knowledge that I knocked some guy in the lake.
Awesome. Steel,
Wonderful.
You have 3 minutes. Do you have a story for us?
Oh, you bet I do.
Excellent.
Okay, so this story takes place at Nero, Wisconsin. One of my favorite chapters because of just how out there they were with their flavor and their storytelling. While I was helping, I met a friend. He was playing a raccoon character, so you know right off the bat that it's totally going to be trouble all over. And he's decided that he wants to do some magic. And formal magic in Nero is you got to sit down, you got to have all your components, you got to follow everything to a T, because you got to follow the rules, otherwise the magic can blow up and terrible, horrible things happen. And this irreverent raccoon decided that he wants to do the world's first bit of informal magic, and begins writing a scroll that, normally looks all nice and text and whatever. He starts creating his own informal ritual, writing on the scroll in crayon, and decides that he wants to make a magic scroll that says, I wish to summon the all-powerful Rakagon, a raccoon dragon. And somebody finally realized where this story is going. So, so he's writing this scroll. He sends somebody else to an NPC camp to tell them what's going on. And because I like the guy, I'm all like, you know what? This is going to go horrifically, terribly wrong. So I'm going to stick around to heal him once they beat the crap out of him. So he's writing the scroll. He has me look it over because I'm the only spellcaster in the group. And I'm like, I don't do formal magic yet. I'm still a lowbie. But then when I read it, I'm all like, hey, so you're trying to summon this mega huge powerful dragon thing. Shouldn't you somewhere include that, like, he doesn't want to eat you? He might do what you say. And so at the bottom, he writes, P.S. He is my friend. at the bottom of the scroll. So a plot person comes, and we get everything ready, and the plot person says, okay, the ritual successfully begins. And immediately everyone's all like, holy crap, it worked. What the heck is going on? This was a joke. We were just screwing around. Oh God, what's going to happen? And then 5 minutes later, Alkali walks in with a purple robe, these silly dragon wings with raccoon face paint on, and the moment the ritual ends, everyone's all like, oh God, what's going to happen? And he stands up and he roars, why do I exist? And long story short, he ran around the entire town trying to eat everybody's magical weapons and swords and items, and the raccoon almost went on trial for the wonderful, wonderful magic that he commanded. And,
don't mess with
yes.
formal magic when I'm helping plot. That's the moral of the story.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I would have done the exact same thing. It was great.
Fun. Steel, why don't you quick do outros and we will throw it over to the next show.
All right. Thank you so very much, Dusty, for participating. Thank you for your wonderful stories. Thank you, Gazzy. You guys are so absolutely wonderful. I am Steel the Warrior. I hope you guys have had a absolutely wonderful time listening to our silly stories. Come hang out with us at FurSquared. Check us out at FurSquared.com. We are, in fact, doing stuff in February, so come check it out. Also, don't forget that this is all being done for charity for our buddy Rob Hogan. Check us out on the link that should pop up below pretty soon here. You guys are wonderful. I can't wait to see you guys, hopefully, at FurSquared Online. And we will be moving on over to a lovely reel involving Rob.
Rob, would you stop? Good night, everyone. Tell everyone you're recording.
You were all my minions. And he thought I didn't see him in that cardboard box. Remember, son,
I see you, Dusty. I see you.
Come get me, you.
Let's go!
it's not like bubble gum.
Ooh, are we hitting people now? I'm ready.
Dusty,
Dude,
what
Gazzy,
goes quite fast?
Did yoga, and even though he only had one
We're still
leg,
live?
he was able to balance for such a very,
Donate for
I
the
miss
biscuit.
playing the game.
very long time.
Donate!
Bring the Rob.
Since it's been established you're gonna die, what's your will?
Oh boy. Remember when, oh god, that's when the aliens came by and we had, Crutch Bosom attack us? Oh boy.
What's going on on the far left side of this picture?
The far left side, we're trying to ignore the far left side. Hello.
Hi.
Hold on a second, I'm concentrating. You're good.
Okay. Thought you were doing the Vulcan high five. Oh my goodness! Oh, come in and chips and dip. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm good. Pretty good. Very good.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're good. Kinda good.
How's he?
But getting a blank right now. I don't want to turn the page.
And begin!
So we trained the staff, we bought the supplies, we got awesome costumes. All we need for this haunted house is a name. How about KK Bang Bang?
New line!
How about Swirly Furly?
New line!
How about let's just all fuck?
That was a long day. I mean.
Silver Gattoman, he bought me a coffee. Silver Gattoman, here is the song for thee. He likes to video all the panels at the cons. You should go and watch them whether they are short or long. Silver Gattoman, you video that's not a jibe. All of you go to his YouTube channel and like and subscribe.